Chaos.radio. Music, podcasts, entertainment.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of NEWSWAVE, written, produced and recorded in the heart of Cornwall by the team here at Chaos Radio. I'm your host, Tom Howe, and I'll be guiding you through some of the insightful guests and exciting news content that we've enjoyed across Chaos Radio this past week. On today's show, we join Malcolm Putko, Group Operations Director at Harbour Housing, to discuss their new partnership with British dental charity Dentaid, which will launch pop-up dental appointments for residents throughout 2025 to help address the growing access issues to dental care in Cornwall. We check in with Cathy Davies, professional artist and founder of the Cathy Davies Art School. She's our very own Chaos Art Correspondent and will be updating us on everything arty across the county. As well as that, we take a trip on the London Underground to meet Sabrina Bahsoon, also known as the Tube Girl, who became a viral sensation with her dance routines on the city's iconic subway system. If all that wasn't enough, we hear from Andrew Chalk, Rural Road Safety Specialist at NFU Mutual, to explore the first ever Code for Countryside Roads and its goal to make rural roads safer for all. And we welcome Reese Wynne Jones, an incredibly gifted pianist whose journey from homelessness to finding solace and purpose at the Night Church in Penzance is as inspiring as his music.
NEWSWAVE.
Right, Harbour Housing, based right here in St Austell, has teamed up with British dental charity Dentaid to secure funding from the Duchy Health charity, allowing the launch of pop-up dental appointments for residents throughout 2025. Now, recent reports have highlighted a significant gap in dental care access, with nearly 19% of people in Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly actually without a dentist. The shortage has led to long waiting times, with many patients facing waits of over a year for treatment, making access to urgent dental care an increasing challenge for the local community. Malcolm Putko, Group Operations Director at Harbour Housing, joined me to discuss their new partnership with Dentaid, the support being offered and the anticipated impact.
NEWSWAVE.
Welcome to Chaos, Malcolm. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. No, look, it's an absolute pleasure, and thank you for all the hard work that you do in the community. Before we go any further, for any of our listeners who might not be aware or are just in need of a quick refresh, can you just introduce us to Harbour Housing and the work that you do, please?
Yes, certainly. We're a charity. We're predominantly based in mid-Cornwall, and that's where our roots started, in around the St Austell, Newquay area. But currently we're now county-wide, from Camborne right up to Saltash, right the way across the county, delivering lots of different services to lots of different people, mainly single vulnerable persons. So it could be homeless, it could be domestic violence, it could have people with mobility issues, mental health issues.
I always think that statistics, if I can get my words out, statistics can sometimes have a limited impact. And I often think it's more important to understand the impact and value being felt by the people engaging with different services. So I wonder, with that in mind, what you can tell us about how many people's lives you might have impacted in a positive way throughout 2024 and in previous years, and the current need for organisations like Harbour too.
It's quite sad that there is actually a need for us, but I'm going to put that to one side. In the last 5 years, we've worked with around about 1,200 people in accommodation, and on our outreach services, that would be in the region of about 200, 250. Last year, in 2024, 401 people were accommodated by ourselves or had access to accommodation services that we either have ourselves or that we manage on behalf of others. And then the outreach was 56. So, yeah, it's been a busy year.
It sounds it. Let's move on and dive into one of these many projects you're currently involved in the community. Can you tell us more about this, exciting new partnership with Dentaid and how that all came about, please?
Well, actually, I'd love to take the credit, but to be fair, it was Kate and her Wave team. They did a joint bid with Dentaid because one of the big things that we do find is that our clients, on the whole, because they're quite transient, maybe move one place to another, they never actually really get registered in time for that. And, so we worked with them, obtained some funding, and yes, we've got several visits coming to us this year. It's a massive breakthrough, and also that relieves the pressure in the communities because, well, basically dentists aren't taking people on, so it's great, and it should save some money because there's so many admissions to A&E and emergency dentists that this is to try and prevent that happening.
Yeah. How many appointments then do you anticipate hosting? Who are they available to? Where can they be found? And what kind of treatment can people expect to receive?
Well, they can have everything apart from dentures. We reckon that we should have there'll be 104 residents that have been on the waiting list for the last 5 years. So we anticipate that there should be about 45 people this year that will be seen.
Okay. Why is... that
range of dental care, but also dental hygiene, basically just trying to keep on top.
Yeah, absolutely. Why is dental treatment such an urgent need in Cornwall, and why was it felt so important for yourselves at Harbour to act on this aspect in particular?
I think it's something that we used to have, what we used to call the Tooth Fairy Fund, where people would make donations to us and we would put that money into to try and help clients when they would have emergency dental. Oh, I was going to say I'd have to put my teeth in, but that's the wrong thing to say at this. We would try and get people access to to get over their fears and their issues, and that's one of the big things that we've made us look in working in partnership with the dental aid team. And when they've done a couple of visits to us and had a chat to us before in the past, and that's been really quite successful. So yeah, we really value doing this.
Fantastic. What with the ongoing challenges of homelessness and poverty here in Cornwall, what steps are Harbour Housing taking to ensure residents receive the support they need beyond dental care?
Well, we're working really closely with not only the NHS, but with Cornwall Council, various charities from across the country, and we provide quite a variety of commission services, including complex needs, domestic abuse, crisis accommodation. We're currently managing the cold weather provision that's based down in Hale. We just respond to the demand of our client group. We're in the process of recruiting the advert should be going out next week for an outreach worker to go out into the communities to see how we can help there and find further accommodation routes for people.
Excellent. What a challenging but sort of, I imagine, quite a rewarding role as well. This isn't the first time Harbour Housing has hosted external services though, is it? Can you tell us about some of the other partnerships you have and how they've benefited the community?
Absolutely. I mean, our wellbeing activities, volunteering and education team, they host loads of different external and internal support groups and volunteering right the way across Cornwall. And they do it each week. We sponsor podiatry, street vets, health for homeless, and a lot of stuff is now is about trying to get people back into work. So we're doing a lot of educational stuff, in-house training, working with Cornwall College. Yeah, there's loads of things, but just trying to get people who've been marginalised and don't have a lot of self-esteem, trying to build that back up again.
Yeah, that's the key. That's so important, isn't it? For any of our listeners then who might have been inspired to act on what you've shared with us today, can you tell us the different ways they can support Harbour and how they can get in touch with you as well, please?
That'd be brilliant. I mean, we're always looking for external volunteers, and it can be for anything. If you're not a front-facing person, if you don't particularly like working with people, but you have a particular skill, we've got one gentleman who's 82, and he still comes in every day, works down on the farm. I say works down on the farm, that makes it sound like slave labour, but he comes in. And when he first started working, it was about 13, 14 years ago, he was quite adamant he didn't want to be frontline. He just wanted to come in. He was a builder by trade, wanted to do little bits and pieces. And it's really quite nice to watch now, because as he walks down, he has it's almost like a duck with his followings that, he gets lots of clients following him and he does lots of training and and stuff like that. So yeah, it's brought him out of his shell as well, because he was quite a quiet guy. But yeah, anything that you can do, donations of clothes, sleeping bags, furniture. I mean, if you've got a background in education, that would be amazing, because, you know, we're always trying to recruit people to better our clients' lives. Anything that you feel that you'd like to do.
Amazing. I think it's so important as well to raise awareness of very real issues being faced by people, often in our own postcodes, in fact, that others might be completely blind to. What are some of the key themes that repeatedly crop up in conversations you're having with people involved in your services? And what are some new issues that we should all be mindful of?
Yeah, I think homelessness is always on the increase at the moment. The cost of living, that's a massive issue. Down to energy efficiency, we've run a couple of projects where we've done winter warm packs for people in their properties, just to try and sort of combat the cost of living. So yeah, we're working quite closely with some major corporate companies and charities to try and repurpose and recycle goods. You know, anything that we can do to actually, rather than step over the crack, fill the crack, is something that we will actually try and do.
NEWSWAVE.
Our thanks to Malcolm Putko, Group Operations Director at Harbour Housing. Keep up the great work. Over to Cathy Davies now, professional artist and founder of her very own art school. She's our Chaos Art Correspondent and updates us on everything arty going on across the county.
NEWSWAVE.
So, I mean, we're nearly at the end of January.
Yep.
I guess let's start with kind of what's been happening at the art school. What's on? What have you been doing?
What's on? Well, in the art school, it has been... everything was fully booked up in December, so I'm fully booked up until like the middle of in the summers now. So
Great.
Unbelievable. So I've got these amazing kids. I teach 35 children in my art school, and they come obviously 3 days a week after school club, and they do 2 hours, and they do a topic. So for 5 weeks, and they're learning about pop art, which is one of my favourite subjects, one of my favourite styles. And I did a picture just before Christmas, which was called Colour Pop Pasty, and it was inspired by Andy Warhol, the godfather of pop art, and his creating that style. And this is what the kids are studying. So they took inspo from me, took inspo from Andy Warhol, and they're doing their own style pop art, and it's amazing. And we've gone into the digital side as well.
Which I think is so important now as well,
Yeah.
isn't it? Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, traditional, getting your hands dirty
Absolutely.
is great fun,
Yeah.
but blending it, important.
You have to, and I know working with youngsters that I've got to move with the times and what they're interested in. And we've got some incredible young artists. So we're doing some pop art. I don't know if anyone will know about Andy Warhol. They probably do, but Andy Warhol did this very famous image of Marilyn Monroe.
Yes.
And it was done 6 times, all different colours, a bit like the famous soup can and the
Yes,
Coca-Cola,
yes, yeah.
and
the pasty,
obviously the pasty, the Colour Pop pasty, available to buy. And so they took inspo from that image. And what we did, I took digital photographs of them through my Arty app and created an image of them, and we printed that 6 times, and they've cut that out and painted them and then stuck them on coloured paper. But it's so professional, and they've got they're big pieces of art for each kid to exhibit at their exhibition at the end of their 5 weeks.
I love this.
Unbelievable.
And what type of things have they been coming up with? Because kids today are inspired by so much.
So we have got. I've got to say one about this. One little boy, and I hope I've asked his parents to mention him on today, and his name is Tristan, and he's one of my one-to-ones that I teach, and he is fabulously talented, and he has taught me the way of anime. And the Japanese, this is all inspiring kids at the moment, these cartoons.
Yeah, like manga and all that
that's
stuff.
it, manga.
Yeah.
And he done this amazing image of one of his favourite characters called Gojo or something like that. I don't want to mispronounce it. And he printed that 6 times. So drew it out and then printed it 6 times and did that kind of pop art inspired style, and it looks amazing. It just looks unbelievable. And I put it online, so he said, right, you're gonna have to put this on TikTok and you're gonna have to hashtag this. And I was like, what are you talking about?
It's a foreign language.
It's a foreign language to me. And that's what he did, and it just went massive online again. And I just thought, these kids are teaching me. They're teaching me what the future is. And, you know, some people, I know art is subjective, but we have to move with the times as well. You know, I'm a traditional artist and I paint in oils and watercolours, acrylics, work with clay. But, you know, these kids are in the digital sort of era, aren't they? And
it's almost it sounds almost like they are teaching you as much as you're teaching them.
Absolutely.
It's a skills exchange.
And I'm like a sponge. I soak it all up. I'm like, teach me. So I always say this, but I'm on their journey as much as they're on mine, and I love that. And I think that's why my art school blends so well with the kids and adults that I teach, because we're just kind of going with it. Instead of being so regimental to, you have to teach this style of watercolour and you have to teach this technique.
And I think from personal experience, like when I think back to like when I was at secondary school, and it must have been like, I don't know, I think year 9 was like the last year we did like mandatory art before it kind of, you know, unless you picked it for something, then you moved on from
exactly.
it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't enjoy art very much, because it was so like, this is what we're doing and there's no wiggle room. So like, you know, copy this and copy that and have a bit of freedom. But like, I mean, we were carving floor tiles for prints and stuff, and I'm like, I don't get it.
And it's still kind of the same, really. It hasn't changed much in the school. And I do think, you know, the teachers do an amazing job, because it is a hard industry, especially for, you know, infant schools and secondary schools and colleges and universities. You know, I take my hat off to these teachers, what they have to deal with, and the pressure and Ofsted.
It's not easy.
It is not easy. It is not easy in this world. But I think with that kind of, I don't know, with the teaching system, they have to move with the times a little bit, and these kids, their minds are incredible, and you have to work with them, work alongside them, you know, and learn. They learn the techniques from me, but then also I'm influenced by what's coming up, and then we merge the both together. And I just think that's a beautiful thing, and that's what's so successful about my art school, because it works. It works.
Yeah, and so that's great point to ask. You know, the art school sounds really busy, some great, you know, engagement on both sides. Have you got a waiting list? Is it to that point now? Because I know you, and you'll be heartbroken that you can't have every child through that door and adult to do art.
Honestly, I'm like Mary Poppins. I'm like, come to me, I will teach you. And I've got a waiting list of like it's about 110. And you know, my dream is always to build a massive like creative HQ and get fellow, you know, tutors like myself, music, pottery tutors together, so we could work in this massive, beautiful building, a bit like what you have here for Chaos. But that's my dreams. But at the moment, it's just me teaching all these kids, amazing art, amazingly talented, but also working on my own projects as well, which is also hard. So I'm constantly, I eat, sleep, art, repeat. Eat, sleep, art, repeat.
Let's talk about some things that are coming up at the art school. So what have you got planned? Because 2025, and you're an ambitious person.
Do you know what? I set my standards high, and sometimes I'm very ambitious. So I'm planning on big things for the art school. So we've got more topics for the children. We've got some really nice people have donated lots of supplies, like a year's worth of clay.
Whoa!
So that's really cool. But I'm also got this big ambition. I want to break into the international market of the art world. So my dream, and I've always had this dream since art, and this is so true, and anybody who knows me knows that my dream is always to exhibit in New York.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I imagine that's peak.
Yeah, that's my
people.
To the art people. And I've always wanted to exhibit in the Opera Gallery, and you've got one in Monaco, one in New York, one in London. I've always gone for the New York one, the New York option.
I assume, of course, being a stewardess or flight attendant, whatever you call it, you've been to New York.
So I've been there, and and I've always loved this certain gallery because they do contemporary arts and just on a massive scale. These paintings are huge, like massive, like Monet used to paint. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm I started off as a graffiti artist. That's where my trade began years ago. And now so my paintings are going into the larger scale again. So I've just ordered some 8-foot by 6-foot canvas.
Huge.
I mean, so big. And it's so big that it actually takes up 3 studio easels. So I start on them and I know exactly what I'm going to produce. And then it will be revealed. I'm not putting anything on my social media of what it is until the reveal. So,
secret project.
You know, a bit like it's a bit of theatre where you pull the cover off and you just go ta-da.
Love that.
So that's what I'm going to do, and then break into the international market and show them like what we Cornish people can do.
And again, nicely tying into how can people reach out, how can they find some of your amazing art and, you know, learn more about the school and maybe even support the school?
Yeah, so that's what it is. So I'm on Facebook, Cathy Davies Artist. You can find me on there. But I'm also on other platforms as well now. So I'm on Instagram and it's Cathy Davies Artist or Cornish Artist, hashtag Cornish Artist. Or you can find me on TikTok. I'm on TikTok now.
I love this.
I don't know what I'm doing, with help from the kids.
Do any of them on TikTok? I've seen some.
I don't know. I'm quite professional. And then, so I'm on TikTok and it's Arty Smarty. And you can see me on there. Or you can drop me a line on www.cathydaviesartist.com. And that's where you can find all my art for sale.
NEWSWAVE.
Thank you to our very own Chaos Arts correspondent, Cathy Davies, and to Nathan Hunkin too. Catch Nathan on Saturday Breakfast from 7 until 10. Now, after becoming a viral sensation online for strutting her stuff on the London Underground, Sabrina Bahsoon quickly became known as the Tube Girl. After racking up millions of views and dancing with various A-list celebs, Sabrina has now forged a new career for herself in the form of fashion, modelling and music. She gave Ross Lannon the inside story.
NEWSWAVE.
For any of our listeners today who are maybe not familiar with your videos, how would you kind of describe the content that you first started creating for anyone who maybe hasn't seen it?
So it's so funny. Every time somebody asks me what I do on TikTok, I just go, I just dance on the tube. And that's really it. And I film myself while doing it, so nobody's filming me a lot of the time. Yeah, I'm just dancing to my favorite songs on the tube. And then sometimes I bring in my favorite artists with me. And yeah, that's what I do.
I love it. And don't ever just play yourself down of just dancing on the tube. No, you're making moves. You are absolutely, because we have to talk about the fact that you started just uploading these videos and it's led to some incredible collaborations as well. Like, you have danced with some pretty famous faces out there, musicians that want you to dance to their music and things like that. So tell us about that.
Oh my God, I've been so lucky to basically be all of my icons that I looked up to for my whole life. But yeah, it's the most weird experience when I get a call and they tell me, oh yeah, Naomi Campbell wants to get on the tube with you. And I'm thinking, what is going on with my life? But yeah, I was super lucky meeting, I remember I used to listen to When I Grow Up by the Pussycat Dolls. And I would listen to that song almost every day in my summer and in the lead up of making those videos. And it was like a manifestation song for me. And then the fact that I actually got to do it with like Nicole Scherzinger. And it's the same with Nelly Furtado. I'd listen to Maneater every single day. And just to get a call being like, oh yeah, she kind of wants to go on the tube and see what it's about. I'm like, what is going on? It never gets old for me. And I would love to meet more artists. So I'm so happy it's gone into that direction. It was like what I wanted from the beginning. So I'm so glad it worked out.
Yeah, it's the perfect marketing tool because these big musicians with new songs out, you know, they can come on the tube, dance with you. Not only are you getting such a great experience growing your platform, but you're obviously promoting their music, and it's just win-win for everyone. You mentioned some of the names there already, like Nicole Scherzinger. These are insane names, you know. I know you've done bits with like Joe Jonas, Camila Cabello as well.
Yeah.
Amazing.
No, Camila Cabello was crazy because I literally get told she's my celebrity lookalike all the time. And also, even when I was growing up, like, everybody would call me like the Timu version of Camila Cabello. So like, I was so happy to finally meet her and be like, this is the funniest thing. And Joe is the sweetest person. I got to go to Portugal to meet him, and it was my first time going to Portugal. And he even asked to stay one more night to go see a show. And we were able to stay another extra night in Portugal and like visit the beaches and then get to see his show in the evening. So it was really cool.
That's incredible. That's so cool. The fact that you're able to travel with this now as well. But I guess when you're filming these videos on the London Underground, it's got to be an element of stress there, because we all know what the Underground can be like. It's so unpredictable in terms of its busyness and just whatever might be happening on that day. So there is still an element of risk. Or if you got it down to a T now where you know, right, I need to get on that carriage at that time and the wind is going to be blowing in my hair at that precise moment.
I mean, I definitely have familiarized myself with like the process, but you can't plan everything, especially, for example, when an artist tells me, oh, I have this time to film it, and it's like during rush hour, and I can't be like, oh no, we can't film that this time because it's rush hour. Like, I can't tell them what to do with their schedule at all. So I kind of have to adapt and adjust. I remember Troye Sivan was like the most difficult because at that time the station was being evacuated, and I had like 3 takes before the station was evacuated. And then he was just like, oh, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, fair. This is so chaotic because there was thousands of people leaving King's Cross station. So no, I can't predict everything, but I just hope for the best. And people have always been so patient and understand like it's a real time thing. I can't really control a lot of it.
Exactly. And what has kind of some of that public reaction been like? Because I've seen some behind the scenes videos of like people that have obviously filmed you doing your thing. And I'm of the opinion, you go get that bag, like you're doing your thing, smashing it. Your confidence is up there. How does it compare kind of from when you first started to now in terms of your confidence filming in public in front of people?
That's so funny. I actually get more nervous now because before, like, nobody knew what I was doing and I could get away with like just doing it and then people looking at me sideways and then just be like, that's weird, and then moving on. But now I get more nervous because people know what I'm doing and they're like, oh, how did the video turn out? And I'm like, oh my God. You have an audience. And of course, I guess when you get an audience, you get a little more nervous. But everyone has been really nice. Like, I never had a really bad experience, except Troye Sivan's time. I'm so sorry, Troye. Like, you genuinely had the most troubling experience because like there was a man who was telling me off for like getting in the window and him being like, I'm too hot, move. And I was like, oh my God. But normally the public reaction really don't care.
Oh, poor Troye. You're going to have to try and do a retake of that one sometime. Amazing.
If he wants to. I don't know if he would want to again.
Oh dear. It's great though. I love watching the videos. What's kind of been the most surreal moment for you in this journey so far?
I think like it hit me like this January, where last year I was talking about how I wanted to make music and how it's like all I wanted to do. Especially even just for myself, it didn't even have to go out. So now looking back, I'm finally put out music. I finally have a step towards my dreams. I'm just like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, so you mentioned the music there. We have to talk about it because you've gone from dancing to other people's songs on the tube to now essentially dancing to your own, which doesn't get much more iconic than that, does it? Talk to us about the process of you know, delving into this world of music. You're releasing a new single, so tell us about it.
So basically, I have a lot of friends who are in music, and I was in the studio with them and they were playing this beat, and they were all trying to figure out how to make it a song. And I had written a few lyrics, and one of my friends is super encouraging and knows my dreams, was like, "You're hopping on this right now." And it's not because I don't think I can't write, but it's more of I'm so worried of performing in front of people. And I just did the song, and it was my first song I've ever made. And I really liked it. And he was like, "This is amazing, and we should finish it." And then he helped me finish it. And it was just like that.
Let's talk a little bit about where your career has taken you over the last year as well, because you have been incredibly involved in some major kind of fashion and modelling work as well, haven't you?
Yeah, it was my first kind of goal coming to London. That was my attempt at getting a job. I signed with an agency and I got no jobs before blowing up online. And so I was so discouraged by like the modeling world. And TikTok really helped me just be seen as a person who can model. And I was really proud of that fact, because as a brown girl from Malaysia, you don't really see a lot of representation in the media in general, or if it is, it's very, token brown person. This is what she does. This is like her story. So I was so glad to be part of campaigns that kind of just ignored that and let me be whoever I wanted to be, and involved me in like every step of the process. So I was very lucky for all the fashion brands that like wanted to work with me. And obviously like the last makeup one was MAC Cosmetics, and being the face of that was really cool.
It's such an insane story. And I don't mean to keep going back to your original videos, but I just love seeing the progress of like from dancing on the underground to now working with major labels, major brands, walking these international fashion show weeks as well. It's such a great story. And Sabrina, it's been a pleasure having you on Chaos Radio today. Best of luck with the new music and everything you're working on, the success you've had over the last few years. It's been great to follow. So thanks for having a bit of fun with us here at Chaos today.
Thank you for having me. And I'll send you any sneak peeks of the song I'm going to put out.
Yeah, please do. Give us a final plug for listeners today. Where can they find you online? Where can they follow you? And where can they listen to your music?
So I'm Sabrina Bahsoon on TikTok and Instagram, and all my music is on Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. It's not hard to find me, so don't worry.
NEWSWAVE.
Massive thank you to Sabrina Bahsoon, aka the Tube Girl, for taking the time to speak with Ross Lannan here on Chaos. Now you can catch Ross every Tuesday and Thursday between 10 and 1 for the Big Brunch Show. Right, I'm Tom Howe and you're listening to NEWSWAVE on Chaos Radio. Safety campaigners have launched the first ever Code for Countryside Roads in a bid to address the tragic loss of life on the UK's rural highways. NFU Mutual partnered with organisations including the Farm Safety Foundation and British Horse Society to create the codes in response to alarming statistics that show rural roads account for 70% more fatalities than urban roads, despite fewer collisions. Joining Cheryl Gordon on Breakfast to explore the campaign and how it aims to make countryside roads safer for all was Andrew Chalk, Rural Road Safety Specialist at NFU Mutual.
NEWSWAVE.
Yeah, so NFU Mutual's the UK's leading rural insurer. So we insure about 3/4 of all of the UK's farms and lots of rural households and rural drivers as well. We operate slightly differently to other insurers in that we operate mostly out of agencies across the UK. So we've got about 300 of them dotted around the country, including an agency in central Cornwall, which serves Liskeard, Truro and Helston through local offices. Because of this model and because we've got so many agents sort of embedded within their communities, one really important thing for us is to, we call it protect and enhance the lives of rural communities. So it's about not only helping them when they have a claim, for example, on their insurance, but helping them to avoid damage, to avoid distress in the first place, essentially to avoid claims, which is obviously better for all of our members who insure with us and also better for us.
Absolutely. What are the main principles or guidelines outlined in the Code for Countryside Roads?
So it's quite a comprehensive document, I'd say. So I'd say anybody listening who's interested should go to NFU Mutual's website, search Rural Road Safety, and they can download and print if they want the Code for Countryside Roads on there. But to boil it down to three things, I suppose. The first one is to respect rural roads. So what I mean by that is to be aware of the unique hazards of rural roads. So, for example, their higher speed, you might encounter vulnerable road users at a higher speed than you would do in an urban setting. There's blind corners, there's blind junctions, there's agricultural vehicles and machinery to navigate on the way. And also road quality generally isn't as good, and visibility isn't as good as you'll get on urban roads. So all of these things essentially create a perfect storm whereby we see that an accident or a collision on a rural road is 4 times more likely to result in a fatality than one on an urban road, which is obviously startling statistics. So the first one is respect rural roads, be aware of the hazards. The second one is to respect rural road users. So again, something that's really important to us with the Code for Countryside Roads is that it's talking to and for everyone. So we're not advocating for one particular road user. The point is that everyone has a right to use rural roads. So whether that's agricultural machinery, obviously they're vital arteries of the rural economy. Whether that's people just doing their daily commute or going to the shops, whether it's tourists, which is obviously a massive thing in the Cornwall area, or whether it's people just using rural roads out, for a ramble or for a cycle. Everyone's got just as much right to be there, so we need to respect everyone's right to be there and be patient with all road users. That's the second one. That's really important. And then the next one, in general, and I've mentioned it already, is just to be patient and considerate on rural roads. So, it's not worth rushing to get to your destination 1 or 2 minutes quicker when you might actually be putting yourself or others in danger. And that's it, really. And then we've got, on the Code for Countryside Roads, there's lots of specific advice for different road user groups on how they can act to both be aware of the hazards.
It's really interesting the fact that you're coming up with these, because just on the way to work this morning, and there's rural roads involved, we were sort of being tailgated by somebody who literally then we pulled in, because you just feel, sometimes you can feel like you're bullied on the roads, can't you, by other people who thinking that they've got to race along a road. And it's so important to be aware that they are dangerous roads, and if you hit into a tractor or a piece of machinery like that, that's when you're going to see this fatality situation happening.
Yeah, absolutely, and that is it. And tailgating's a classic case in point, I think, of there's no need to do it. You can give room, but you've also done exactly the right thing there. So if you are feeling uncomfortable, and that's on the advice we give, there's nothing stopping you pulling over and letting this person who's not necessarily acting correctly by, and then that keeps you safe, and it also keeps the person who's tailgating you more safe as well. So you absolutely did the right thing there.
Yeah, it's definitely a safe thing to do. Why do vulnerable road users such as horse riders, cyclists and pedestrians face higher risks on rural roads?
So it's a couple of things. Obviously, fundamentally, it's that they're less protected. So if you're in a car, you've got a big hunk of metal around you to protect you. So if you do crash, that absorbs a lot of the shock. You've got airbags, things like that. If you're on a horse or if you're on a bike or a motorcycle, you haven't got that protection. So if you're involved in a collision, you're a lot more likely to be seriously injured or killed, unfortunately. The second thing, and this is specific to rural roads more generally, is that you get a lot more interactions with other road users, so less vulnerable road users. So whether that's, if you're a cyclist, it might be a motorcyclist or someone driving a car. It's at a higher speed. So generally, the national speed limit on a rural road is 60 miles per hour. We know that a lot of the time that's not appropriate, and people shouldn't necessarily treat that as a target. It's a limit. But you will encounter vulnerable road users on rural roads at higher speeds than you will do in urban settings. And obviously, that just ramps up the danger for that. And unfortunately, that bears out in the statistics.
Yeah, I think, it's all about driving with due care and attention, isn't it? For example, also putting headlights on is another classic one. And when we get some really great weather in Cornwall, it's something that people often forget to use. Another question that I've got for you is, what steps can a motorist take to protect themselves and vulnerable users whilst driving on the roads?
Yeah, so I've said it, and I think I do harp on this theme a lot, but patience is key, really.
Yeah.
So don't rush. If you're stuck behind a cyclist for a minute or two, it doesn't really matter, does it? So be patient with them and appreciate the fact that they aren't holding you up on purpose. 99.9% of the time. So yeah, be patient. Give as much room as you can as well. So it should be 2 meters for vulnerable road users. So whether that's a horse rider or a cyclist or anything, you should give 2 meters. And a good rule of thumb is that you should give a vulnerable road user as much space as you would give a car. So imagine there's a car length between you, and you can provide that. And that's a good way to keep yourself safe and them safe. Because also, if you're driving too close to a vulnerable road user when you're passing, you might need to make a quick adjustment, and it could end up, injuring you as well as the vulnerable road user.
Yes.
Should also be aware, on that note, that the quality, especially on rural roads, on the edge of the road, might be dangerous for vulnerable road users. So often there's a really good reason why a cyclist or a horse rider isn't riding right on the edge of the road. Best practice for vulnerable road users is to, drive in the safest spot for them, because if there's a pothole on the edge of the road and they've got to swerve, into traffic to avoid it, that's putting everyone in danger. That's another one. Just be aware of that. Hidden junctions and blind corners are also an important thing to note. So you might not see a vulnerable road user if you're coming out of a junction, or there's someone coming out of a junction. You might not be able to see them because of hedges. Same with blind corners. Slow down and be aware that you don't know what's on the other side of that corner or that junction. And again, you should be able to keep yourselves and other people safe, and you won't have to make emergency manoeuvres, which is where we see a lot of crashes. And finally, you mentioned this about headlights. So it's really important that vulnerable road users have lights on so they can be seen, and so they're not coming, blind towards someone. But likewise, if you're driving a car or an agricultural vehicle, dip your lights if you're coming up to a vulnerable road user, because it can dazzle them. It means they can't necessarily see you, and also it can counterintuitively sometimes mean that you can't see the vulnerable road user either coming towards you or on the other side of the road. So it's important to remember to do that, not only for vehicles but for vulnerable road users as well.
I like all of these great points of information, and I often think exactly the way that you're talking this morning. Moving away from the code for a moment, what other resources and information are being offered by NFU Mutual to support people in their communities?
Yeah, so this is something we have been campaigning on for a number of years. So I think we started it in 2021 in reaction to the startling statistics that you mentioned earlier, the fact that, there's 70% more rural road fatalities than urban road fatalities, and that is something that has been borne out in the past 5 years or so. It's not actually moving the dial. So we've been doing this for a while, and during that time, we've worked with lots of people and lots of groups to develop advice. So we've got advice sheets for specific road users as well as the code for countryside roads. So if you operate agricultural machinery, if you're a driver, if you are a cyclist, you can go onto NFU Mutual's website, and as well as downloading and reading the code for countryside roads, there's specific information sheets on there that tell you basically the best practice of how to act that can help keep yourself safe. And what I say is it's worth taking a couple of minutes to look through those and familiarise yourself and just kind of challenge yourself against what your actions are, just to make sure you're keeping yourself as safe as you can do. Going forward, this isn't an area we're going to stop talking about. We really want to raise awareness of it because it is a big problem, and at the end of the day, every life lost on a rural road or any road is a tragedy, and it is avoidable. So, ideally, we don't want to see any deaths at all on rural roads, and we think ultimately we can do that. So we're going to keep talking about this, and we're going to keep partnering with people like the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents, the farming unions, the Older Drivers Forum, the British Horse Society, to reach those different groups and hopefully help drive forward the message of rural road safety.
Too right, and you're speaking so much great stuff there, Andrew. I'm loving every bit of what you're saying, and if we can shout it from the rooftops with you, I think Chaos Radio is happy to. Finally, before we say goodbye, can you just remind our listeners how they can just go to your website and find out more information?
Yeah, so a couple of ways. You can go to www.nfumutual.co.uk, and that will then bring you to our website, and you can search on our website for rural road safety, and that will provide you with all of the information and resources we've got. So that's our code for countryside roads, that's our advice sheets for specific road users, and that's also our report, which essentially details what the problem is. It says about the statistics for different places, and it will go down into detail. So, for example, we've got statistics for the southwest, which show that the problem is essentially more severe than it is for the country at large. So in the southwest, there are over 100 fatalities on rural roads in 2023, which is 3 times more than there were on urban roads. Not surprising given the makeup of southwest roads, but I think that can be really eye-opening for some people who don't necessarily think about that immediately. So it's worth doing. The other thing What you can do is obviously, if you just search NFU Mutual Rural Road Safety on Google or whatever search provider you're using, it will come up our website. You can click onto that and you can find everything you need to do. And like I said, I'd really urge people to do that because it's all there for free. It's there to use. It doesn't take very long to go through and familiarise yourself. And ultimately, it could end up, saving your life or saving the life of another road user.
NEWSWAVE.
Thank you to Andrew Chalk, Rural Road Safety Specialist at NFU Mutual, and to Cheryl, of course, as well. Okay, last but certainly not least, we were thrilled to welcome Rhys Wynne-Jones to Chaos, an incredibly gifted pianist whose journey is as inspiring as his music. Rhys, homeless and feeling lost, was drawn to the Night Church in Penzance. There, he spotted a piano and felt an undeniable urge to play, but feared that the staff wouldn't let a homeless person touch such a beautiful instrument. How wrong he was. The staff welcomed him to play, and Rhys performed Bohemian Rhapsody, a moment that moved everyone inside the church that night. Since then, he's continued to touch the hearts of his audiences with his sublime skill and musicality. He joined Janice Rose here on Chaos.
NEWSWAVE.
So since the night that you played piano at the Penzance Night Church, how has your musical career evolved? Has there been any standout moments or opportunities that have opened up to you?
I wouldn't call it a musical career per se. I would just call it complete bonkers what's been happening. It's just been one thing after another, after another, after another. And there's just been so much happening that sometimes I don't know how to deal with it or how to act. But it's been a really awesome journey. But at the same time, it doesn't feel real. I feel like my dreams make more sense than the life I'm living at the moment.
Oh no, that's really good. It's real that you're still in that transitional phase from local superstar to international superstar. I think in about 6 months, Rhys. That's what I'm reckoning.
We'll see what happens. But there's a lot in the pipeline. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of things that have happened as well. The Night Church Piano Tour was a brilliant success, so much so that there's an extension going on into February. I'm playing a couple more venues next month, and I'm playing with some awesome talent as well that I can't wait to share the stage with.
Oh, that's fantastic. And since the Night Church event, you've gained some significant media attention. Where have you been and who have you been chatting to? Because you've been up to London everywhere, haven't you? Do tell our listeners.
Yeah, it's very recently I went up to Sky News, and that was a very last minute. A lot of media appointments are very last minute. It's I think Chaos Radio is the only thing that's been planned well in advance. But with all the other media companies like BBC, ITV and Sky News, most definitely recently, it's just been, right, okay, we want you a couple of days. Can you travel up to London? And I'm just like, okay, all right. And then as I'm travelling up there, I'm just thinking, what they're going to ask me, what I'm going to say. And they let me know last minute, we have a piano in the studio at Sky News. Maybe you can play a song for us. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, sure, I'll do it. And but it's a very scary experience as well, especially doing live interviews, because you are very aware that there are a lot of people listening, and you're very aware that your words that you speak can carry a lot of weight. But I've had a lot of experience speaking in public, performing in public. For many years, I actually grew up performing, so I actually ask a lot of uncomfortable questions in my music. I've got 5 tracks to my EP, so it's 5 songs I'm releasing. Handhold is track 3, but each song that I'm writing asks a very uncomfortable question about the world we live in. And I'll say these questions if that's okay, if you don't mind. I love to share. Okay, so question 1, how bad is our addiction to social media?
Bad, yes.
Question 2, have we lost the meaning to pride?
Possibly, yes.
Number 3, in a relationship, be it a friend or a lover, how much control should they have over you?
Interesting questions, Rhys.
Track 4, is normality a good thing?
Mm-hmm.
And number 5, can you win against a narcissist?
No, you have to walk away. But
that might be a form of winning.
Yes, indeed. Oh my word! Yeah, I can imagine. And those questions, you have gone in sort of quite deep thought, processes. I think that what makes your music so engaging, Reese, because the emotion comes out in your playing. And it just envelops the audience, whether it's a couple of people in the studio at the moment or the whole of the International Food Festival. And I think that's something very precious.
It is. It's emotion in music is how you connect with people, because that's the only way I can connect with people. I find it very hard to talk in social situations. I'm very awkward. I've got neurodivergence, which complicates things even further. So when I use music, I feel like I'm understood a lot more. And I've seen a lot of suffering from other people in my time, in my life, and it really hurts me. So it just came to a point whilst I was homeless that I just needed to do something about it. And whilst the fundraising concerts will continue, I'm looking at other ways to help people as well, and releasing my music is going to be one of those methods.
So you mentioned the Night Church tour, which has been extremely successful, including Truro Cathedral, which must have been epic. And you're raising funds for homeless charities. How have you found this experience, and how much money have you raised so far? Because I know it's epic, Reese.
Epic's a bit of an understatement, because it just doesn't feel real. I said it before and I'll say it again, none of this feels real to me. But even though these things aren't evidently happening to me, you've got to do the best with what you're given, because you can have any talent in the world, but your talent doesn't matter unless you use it properly. So when this opportunity was given to me, when I went viral for the first time, I had to make sure that, right, this doesn't usually happen to people. There's a reason why it's happening. I'm going to have to do the best thing I can with my talents now. I'm going to have to help people, and I'm going to, because I couldn't take any money from myself when I first started doing these concerts. I needed to help others because I've seen too much.
Yeah.
So I've raised £16,855 to date.
That is absolutely amazing, Reese. I am so proud of you for the work you do. Reese, when we last spoke, you were staying at St Petrock's and working towards finding a permanent home. Has there been any progress on that front currently?
Unfortunately, I'm still there. But I'm actually fortunate to still be there, because St Petrock's are very supportive. They know how hard it is to get a home. They know how hard it is to cope with mental health, because it's a very difficult situation to be in. It's like, I'm not on the streets, but if it weren't for St Petrock's, I'll still be on the streets. If it weren't for St Petrock's, I'll be on the streets for a whole year, even with all this going on. My homeless problem in Cornwall, with a housing crisis and everything, it's an absolute massive problem that not too many people are aware of.
Yeah, I must admit, unless you're touched by it, it goes sort of somewhat under the radar, doesn't it? So someone like me, I've got my own home. So what would you say that I could do to help homelessness? Would it be raising awareness, or would it just be having a conversation with someone?
All homeless people are human beings. We live in a very dehumanised society where everybody is judged more on worth than their humanity. And it's getting to a real unsustainable point where families can't be families anymore. Kids can't spend time with mum and dad because mum and dad are both working. And if one of them does not work, then they're in danger of ending up in the same situation than I am. And it's got to be said that to get back into the world, to get back into society, community is the only way. I mean, if it weren't for Night Church Penzance, I probably still would, I don't know where I would be. And that's quite scary.
Yes, it is. Definitely. So as well as your music, do you do a bit of Morris dancing?
Yes, I do.
Do tell, Reese.
I was actually brought up a Morris dancer. These days, I've actually got my own Morris dancing team in Truro.
Mm-hmm.
We're based in Camborne, but we practice in Hendra Hall in Truro every Sunday, 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. We are called Order of the Geep, Alternative Morris. And not only we do traditional dances, we do alternative Morris dances to different styles of music, including metal music.
So, Rhys, if people want to learn more about you and your music and your upcoming performances, where's the best place for them to find all this information?
Okay, so social media, I have 3 channels. I've got Facebook. If you type in Rhys, RHYS, ; the Night Church Pianist, you'll find me. I've got a Facebook page where you can see all the concerts coming up, all the progress with the EP, when it's going to be released, and the exciting things that we've got lined up, which includes some concerts in other areas of the UK.
Ooh, you're going national.
Yeah. Ever since Sky News, it's just been absolute bonkers.
You're going to need your own media team soon, Rhys.
It's looking that way at the moment, but we'll just see how things go the next couple of months, and then we'll take it from there. But I just can't believe this is all happening. I'm so grateful, and I'm really lucky.
Well, it certainly couldn't have happened to a lovelier person, Rhys. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on and being on my show today. It's been such a privilege.
It's an honour. It's a real pleasure. And it's lovely to see you dancing as well.
I can't stop myself. And just one other thing, you will come back again soon, won't you?
Definitely.
Oh, fantastic. That is the wonderful Rhys Wyn-Jones there, sharing his remarkable journey and his extraordinary musical talent with us this afternoon. His story is a true inspiration to us all. To learn more about his incredible work, be sure to visit his Facebook page, Rhys, the Night Church Pianist.
NEWSWAVE.
Okay, that's all we've got time for on this week's edition of NEWSWAVE. A big Chaos Radio thank you to Malcolm Putko, Group Operations Director at Harbour Housing. Thanks also to Cathy Davies, professional artist and founder of the Cathy Davies Art School. Sabrina Bahsoon, also known as the Tube Girl. Andrew Chalk, Rural Road Specialist at NFU Mutual. And of course to Rhys Wyn-Jones, the Night Church Pianist. And as ever, a final thank you to you for listening and helping support local journalism to thrive. To catch up on all our coverage, head on over to chaos.radio. Now remember, if you have a local news story that you'd like to share with us, email news@chaos.radio or search Chaos Radio UK across socials. That's it. You're up to date here on Chaos. I'm Tom Howe. Thanks very much for listening. See you next time.
NEWSWAVE.
Chaos.radio. Music, podcasts, entertainment.